Hey Sean, how was your day today?
Shitty.
Mine was shitty too. I'm in a shitty mood.
I'm in a shitty mood. I'm in a very shitty mood, actually.
Do you want to do you want to do a podcast about good movies?
No, I want to do a podcast about shitty movies.
All right.
It's Friday, Friday, gotta get down on Friday. Everybody's looking forward to the weekend, Friday, Friday, getting down on Friday. Everybody's looking forward to the weekend.
I was a young boy that had big plans. Now I'm just another shitty old man. What did I fun and I hate everything. The world's out, so fuck you. Glory days.
So, just to clarify, I'm not necessarily in a shitty mood, are you?
No, not really, actually. I'm actually quite excited to be doing this podcast.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about shitty movies today. Because we've talked about different genres, different things, different movies, good movies. But
Movies that were
normally,
great.
normally, like when we talk about a genre of movie, we talk about the best movies of that genre. So today we thought no genre, no specific types of movies, just movies that suck.
Suck. Straight up suck. And we have all, I'm pretty sure we have our fair share list of shitty movies that we've seen, movies that we thought were going to be fucking fantastic and just straight up sucked.
And I'm sure there's movies that some people like that you may say, I think that's a shitty movie. How can you like that? I mean, I know the first time I saw Mean Girls, I thought, man, this is a shitty movie, but
I'm
it's-
sorry, you're not going to start in on the Mean Girls shit again.
Oh, I
are you?
am.
Oh,
Oh, I
okay.
am.
Thank you.
You can't mention that Mean Girls is in your top 5 movies and not expect me to rib you about it for the next year's worth of
Yeah,
podcast.
you know what? It was fucking damn right hilarious.
But yeah, we understand everyone's going to have differing views on what sucks and what isn't. But we're going to talk about movies that, like Sean said, that you thought were going to be good. The expectation was there, but it didn't deliver. Movies that you went into knowing they were going to be bad. And then we'll talk a lot about. I think the thing is a lot of movies that are shitty. They're sequels or trilogies to a good movie.
Too good.
Like there's lots out there that they made a great movie, and then they just made a bunch of sequels that didn't need to be made, and they were terrible.
They were absolutely terrible. And that kind of, like I've always stated before too, that's what scares me in Hollywood these days too, is that they're running out of ideas. There's a lot of things that they're coming out with revamping, and some of these things that they're revamping, I just soulfully think to myself that like, no, just don't touch it, don't fuck around with it, don't. That just kind of scares me, and there's some that already sit in my head that I think are just gonna suck, straight up.
So what are some that you've looked forward to seeing that ended up being terrible?
My first one actually that will hit the top of my list is It. I was soulfully disappointed with It.
Okay, clarify though. You're talking about the new one.
The new one. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, to me, first off, I find the original TV series one much scarier. This one had really no jumps or scares in it, and I thought the story was a little bit off, and personally, I could have slept through the whole thing and just not given a shit whether or not I missed it. And to be honest with you, actually, the second I left the theater, I wrote up a review about it, about how bad it was.
Yep, and you can
And
find
how
that
much I didn't
review
care.
on Sean's Old School Movie Reviews on Facebook. Sorry, shameless plug.
No,
Anyway,
that's
so
like the shameless
now-
plug.
Was it a shitty movie because it was a shitty movie, or was it a shitty movie because it was shitty compared to the original?
No, there. To me, I find first off, I thought that the premise of the movie was way off. I found that the film focused more on Pennywise because Bill Skarsgård was the big talk about becoming Pennywise, and he looked super ultra mega fucking creepy. Do not get me wrong, but there were just scenes that it was just like, you know what? I wouldn't even approach that clown to begin with in the first place. It already looks creepy and scary. And that's just plain stupid. To me, when I look at Stephen King's It, to me there are two sides to the film. There's having to do battle with the fears of this demon, this demonic demon, this Pennywise the clown. But to me, the main thing is these group of kids having to band together to become a team, to be able to face their fears all together, to support one another, to face their fears. There wasn't a whole lot of show of that. I found the film focused way more on Pennywise than what it needed to. And
Well, see, and I think one of the cool things about the original was that he was scary and creepy looking, but he was still a clown. He wasn't necessarily,
right.
you know what I mean? When you first see
Let's
him, you're like, oh, it's a clown.
Let's take for example Georgie, the little boy, approaching, say, Pennywise in the sewer drain in the original 1990 series. It just looked like a clown. There was nothing creepy about it. And if it was anybody else other than a 5-year-old kid, I mean, you might question why the fuck are you in the sewer, but other than that, it just looked like a clown, and it looked approachable. Right off the bat with the new one, when he appears in the sewer, I'm sorry, I would have gone. I'd have gone home. I'd see ya. Like, it already looked genuinely terrifying, and that just, everything was just dragged out. It was terrible.
For me, I think the one that, now this is going back to when I was a kid, but there was a movie that I knew was coming out on VHS. And I really, really wanted to see it. And I was so excited for how good it was going to be. And I remember leaving my parents' house in Ripley, running down the road to McAdams Mini Mart, where I was allowed one free movie rental every weekend because my mom worked there. And I rented this movie, and I went home, and I got my dad to put it in the VCR for me. And I'm pretty sure it was the old school VCR that had the remote that was actually on a cord. Because I think the VCR was older than I was.
That shit's old school. If anybody remembers that.
And I remember sitting down and turning it on and being thoroughly disappointed with the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yes, the Super Mario Brothers movie was terrible. I'm amazed that John Leguizamo had a career after that. Not much of a career, but he had a career.
That is true. Who else was in that? There was another big star in that movie too. Who played the main villain in that one? I'm gonna look it up because I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up. Yes, believe it or not, there are things that we have to research from time to time while we're doing these.
Bob Hoskins.
Bob Hoskins.
Oh no, he was Mario.
Yeah.
Who was the villain? Dennis Hopper.
Dennis Hopper.
Was King Koopa.
And it didn't even fucking look like Koopa, if I'm not mistaken.
Nobody looked like anybody. It was a terrible movie.
It's fucking absolutely horrible film.
Like there's some movies that are bad. Like they're shitty movies. But I could go back and watch them with a nostalgic eye because I watched them when I was a kid and I liked them. Mario Brothers, I knew when I was 7 years old that this was a shitty movie.
Now, so that's fun. That's really funny that you say that because, like, even though anything, like, there's always the old saying that any publicity is good publicity, no matter how either good it may be or how ultra mega shitty it may be. If it's so shitty, yeah, you have to go check it out just to see how fucking ridiculous and shitty it totally is. So,
it's the whole reason I watched Piranhas.
Right. Okay. It was shitty. It was fucking stupid. It was shitty. The 70s one is way better.
Zombie Strippers.
Oh my god.
Was another one that I knew was going to be terrible.
Dude, just the start of it with their paintball gun equipment and shit like that was just fucking terrible.
Yeah, but boobies.
Yeah, okay, there was lots of that shit. There was tons of that fucking shit. And yet, for some odd reason, we felt compelled for 90 minutes to sit there and watch Zombie Strippers. The idea is awesome, and yes, I mean, you can't have anything else other than complete fucking cheese and horribleness with a title like Zombie Strippers.
Okay, so that brings up a good point then. When they made Zombie Strippers...
Oh, there was no intention of it being...
So they weren't trying to make an Oscar-winning franchise.
No.
Right? So,
God.
so they knew. And that's the thing. There is a genre out there of
B-movies.
shitty movies
B-movies.
that are purposely made shitty. And, I mean, we may touch on some of those, but I think the main purpose of this is movies that were supposed to be good.
Yes, and they just turned out
were
to be...
not.
So, like, if we go back, we're not going to stretch all the way back into, like, super ultra mega spans of decades here, but, like, if we were to start in the 80s, And like if I had to start in the 80s myself and I had to start down at like the bottom of the friggin' list for the 80s, I'm sorry, this is going to be like the third or fourth podcast these have been brought up, but Jaws 3 and Jaws 4. Jaws is the definitive shark film. It cost under $20 million to make and brought in just under like $500 million in the box office in 1975. That's fucking amazing.
That is a money-making shark.
Number 2, sequel, not bad. Not great, but still delivered some good suspense, weak story. I'm sorry, number 3 and number 4, I don't know what the fuck you were thinking, but Jesus Christ. Just Jesus Christ. Jaws 3D, which is the third one, is... Oh my god. The special effects are terrible, the acting is terrible. There's... it doesn't even take place in Amity Island, okay? It takes place in SeaWorld, which I'm pretty sure was to promote SeaWorld, because I'm pretty sure it was just opening. There's certain scenes, like there's one scene where the fucking park isn't even open yet, and some guy's gone missing, and the two main characters go down looking for this guy in a little submarine, and of course the shark attacks. As they are trying to get away from the shark is chasing them, and it gets an above the water fucking view where, for some reason, there's a giant crowd. There's a giant audience in the background. I'm sorry, I didn't think the park was open yet, because the park isn't open yet! So what is a giant crowd doing there? And nobody's reacting to this giant shark in the fucking water, and people being chased by it. And then the fourth one just fucking speaks for itself. It has literally been rated the worst movie ever fucking made, people.
And it probably could be.
I don't know, man. There may be
definitely-
some that we bring up today that may be...
So, keeping on, say, with the 80s, there was another set of movies where, and I mean, we brought these ones up before too, but Back to the Future.
Right.
The first one,
Awesome.
awesome.
Just
the second
awesome.
one, pretty cool.
Pretty
the
good.
third
a little bit
movie,
darker.
like
No.
not necessarily shitty.
Dude, it was a
but-
stretch.
Eh,
It was a stretch.
eh.
Huge stretch. I'm sorry to have to say the third one is the least watched one out of my...
Oh, for sure.
But
the biggest question to me about all the Back to the Futures is why would you make a time machine out of the most unreliable car that's ever been built?
well,
Because
that
the
got
whole,
proven...
the whole point, like the whole
True
thing in
out.
those movies is that Marty McFly can't ever get the car to start. Ever.
Right. We have to soulfully point out that. Just the whole premise was always the fucking same. It was always, I gotta go back to the past so I can change the fucking future.
But
Oh,
I'm stuck
look.
there and I have to figure out how to get home
Right.
without
And-
altering the timeline too much.
Yeah. And it was all just the same thing. Back to the Future. Soulfully, unfortunately, number 3, just a bad way to end the trilogy. Didn't really care. My big one for sticking with the 80s, Halloween.
Hmm.
The original Halloween is friggin' awesome. But we're not here to talk about awesome movies, so let's move along. You know what, let's just jump right ahead. Number 3. Halloween 3, Season of the Witches, has, I don't get this, has nothing to do with Michael Myers. Instead, it has to do with an evil toy maker who makes evil Halloween masks to kill kids. And he did it all by using magic that we believe that we got from Stonehenge, which we managed to steal. And we're going to use the power from Stonehenge to bring these masks to life and kill kids. Now, I don't know.
Can't say I've ever seen that one.
Right. And then for some odd reason that didn't go over well, so the fourth one we just brought back Michael Myers and we don't know what happened to him in between.
What was
number
he
3
doing
and-
when the guy was using Stonehenge to bring masks to life to kill kids?
Probably thinking of, he was probably, I don't know, maybe invigorating his powers that he can't die.
Maybe the guy used Stonehenge to bring his mask back to life.
You know what? Even that would have been a better fucking story because
It made sense?
It made sense and it still deals with Halloween masks. Either way, Halloween 3 was totally crappy.
You know, do you know what kind of movies are usually pretty shitty? When they make movies about video games.
Right now, are we jumping ahead in time here? Because I didn't know if we were still stuck in the 80s or not. Or
Well, I don't know if you
But
want to stick with the 80s if you want, man.
Oh, believe, dude, I can go on about the 80s forever. Like, one thing that we did not touch on, Superman. Superman 1 and Superman 2, awesome. Superman 3, bad. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, pure, just garbage. Like, it's so fucking bad I don't even remember the villain's name. It was like Radioactive Man, or it's not Radioactive Man, but I'm well aware of that, but it was...
It's the goggles. They do nothing.
It's the goggles. They do nothing. Superman 4 was just... It was just terrible. There's not even a reason to put this movie in your DVD player. Assuming you can even find it on DVD, let alone Blu-ray. VHS, possibly. I'm assuming anybody still watches those, but... Again, these are the concepts, like... Superman was such a huge thing when it came out. It was like, at the time, it was like the superhero movie. And everybody out there, depending on your age, who didn't own Superman bed sheets, Superman toys, you know, the movies, watch the cartoons, collect the comic books. And again, as I said, the first two movies, great. And I don't know what the fuck you were thinking with Superman 3, but Superman 4 is just, it's just terrible. Terrible. And again, it's amazing people had careers after this piece of garbage happened.
It would have been one of the first superhero movies, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, 78, I mean, I can't really picture any other superhero movies prior.
No, I think the Adam West Batman one had a TV movie.
Yeah, Batman...
But
Batman would have had a TV.
Was absolute cheese.
Yeah, but that was its point, though. You can't
Well,
really say it was
exactly.
bad.
No, I'm not saying it was bad at all. I think it was amazing.
The camp benefactor is supposed to be there. It's supposed to be... Superman never had the concept of being hokey or cheesy. It was supposed to be like, hey, fucking A, like, this is Superman. You know, and there was that other big things that went on for, like, heroes that kids grew up with, like Conan the Barbarian. 1982, probably Schwarzenegger's first American Hollywood feature, because this is 82. This is even before the Terminator. Conan the Barbarian, though, was good. Conan the Destroyer. 1984. Like, because I don't know what the reason for throwing Wilt Chamberlain in there was for, but he was annoying. And all the other characters were annoying. The special effects are just unbelievably stupid.
Well, going along the same lines as that one, do you remember Kull the Conqueror? Kevin Sorbo. TV's Hercules.
TV's Kevin Sorbo. And nobody knows what's happened to him.
Probably living in a trailer somewhere with Lucy Lawless.
Or he's dead.
Xena Warrior Princess.
Is that Lucy Lawless?
It was.
Yeah, Lawless, sorry. Yeah,
She's done a few things since then. But...
She has?
Yeah, she was in the, that HBO show, the show with the Spartans. She was a queen, I think.
Okay. You know, I'm going to take your fucking word for that, man.
She showed her boobies. There's going to be a theme, I think, to a lot of these shitty movies. A lot of them.
Movies.
Some of them have boobies.
There's going to be a lot of shitty movies.
And I will say boobies and giggle because I'm a child. So, are we, sticking with the 80s? Anything else you want to
No,
cover?
Probably like my last thing for the 80s that I will definitely give a shout out on for is Stephen King had... A lot of Stephen King's movies were, to an extent, a little bit far-fetched. Not so much in his earlier times, but as time progressed, probably one of the worst ones to sit there and watch is Pet Sematary. Now, the movie itself is genuinely creepy, depending on, what you want to take in when you watch it. But the fucking story is absolutely fucking ludicrous. It's ludicrous. It's just fucking stupid. By halfway into the film, you keep on wondering what the dad in the movie is doing. You are well aware that the Pet Sematary is evil. But yet you keep fucking burying things in it. And then you create this huge shitstorm. And then you gotta clean up the shitstorm. And as if that isn't bad enough, at the end of the movie, your wife is dead. So what do? You take her to the pet cemetery so you can bring her back. I'm sorry, did you not learn from everything else that just fucking happened? And I'm sorry, but the film has nothing to do with the pet cemetery. It has to do with an Indian burial ground. It's just attached to the pet cemetery. But nothing happens in the pet cemetery.
Those Indian burial grounds are always causing problems.
Fucking A. I can say something I'm not going to right now, though.
That would probably be for the best.
That's yeah, man. I'm just gonna fucking.
I'm
leave
not
that
sure
one
what you
alone.
were going to say, but I can imagine.
No, just please don't. You know what? Don't even imagine. So, last one that I'm going to go for, and you know what? I've even done a podcast on this fucking series, or actually mentioned it, but James Bond. Roger Moore's last stint, God rest his soul, as James Bond for A View to a Kill. A View to a Kill is just terrible. It is a walking snooze fest for James Bond. First off, it doesn't help the fact that Roger Moore is 58 fucking years old, and the Bond girl is 22 years younger than he is. That's remember, he's old enough to be her grandpa. Christopher Walken doesn't even save the movie as being the bad guy. It's everything about it is terrible. It was almost the death of the fucking Bond franchise. It was that bad, and it's so fucking bad. That's about all I'm going to say about it. That's how shitty it is. That's another. We're just going to go there. So, video game movies, as you brought up, and this video game movies, I felt we didn't start seeing until what, 90s?
Yeah, I think it was the 90s. Well, because video games really, like, you couldn't really make a movie about Pong.
No, none of that was.
I mean, could, but it'd probably just be tennis. But with Super Nintendo, or not Super Nintendo, just with Nintendo, you kind of got, video games became very mainstream. So you ended up with, Super Mario Brothers movie. And then you ended up with a movie called Mortal Kombat.
Right.
And my God.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat is bad.
Terrible. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Let's find out just how bad this is. There's a few other. There's at least one more that came out before Mortal Kombat, but Mortal Kombat was just bad. It is, for anybody that's never seen it, it is based off the video game, and all the characters are in there in the first one, like Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, Sonya Blade. And their whole concept is to defeat Shang Tsung, and save the realm of Earth from being taken over. The acting is extremely bad. Half of the people in it, I don't even think know martial arts, but they make it look like they know martial arts. And as if that isn't bad enough, yeah, they made a sequel to Mortal Kombat, which was Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which was even worse than the original Mortal Kombat.
But, like you were saying, ones that came out before it.
Double Dragon.
Double Dragon and Street Fighter.
Yep, Street
Both
Fighter.
came out within a month of each other in 1994.
Yep, Street Fighter with Jean-Claude Van Damme. If you forgot all about this one, there's probably a reason why. Because it's bad. It's so fucking bad. It's utterly shitty. The story is shitty. The story is weak and shitty. The acting is just atrocious. Quite frankly, from what I remember from the film, I was so lost while I was watching because I didn't even know what was happening. Well, we were watching it.
Well, Double Dragon.
Well, I was watching it anyway.
Double Dragon did $2 million at the box office and has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 8%.
So there you go. That just shows you just how bad Double Dragon was. How bad was Mortal Kombat?
Mortal Kombat was 15%. No, Mortal Kombat was 34%.
That's still
Super
not
Mario Brothers was 15%. But Mortal Kombat Annihilation, 3%.
Again, need we say more, boys and girls? I would also like to know, like, first off, let's jump ahead to Mortal Kombat Annihilation. First off, I didn't even know that Sub-Zero had a brother or a cousin or whatever the fuck he was supposed to be. I was pretty sure Sub-Zero died in the first one. Half of the same actors didn't even come back to be in it. The special effects are just, they're not even flashy at best. They are just terrible. The whole movie is just actually one giant special effect. The writing is terrible. The story is terrible. The acting is terrible. You know what? There's nothing I can really say between Double Dragon, Super Mario Brothers, Mortal Kombat, and Mortal Kombat Annihilation. To be honest with you, I don't even know which one's worse.
They are all pretty bad.
They are terrible, absolutely terrible, and it's video game movies. No,
It's just not really like. Now they did. I mean, the Tomb Raider movies.
Tomb Raider
Like,
was good.
That's what I mean. Like, everything wasn't a fail. Now, next year, there's going to be a Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
No,
I don't know if it's animated or not.
No.
Apparently, there is a Pokemon movie coming out that is live action. So I'm not really sure how that's going to go.
no.
But one movie that, now it isn't a video game movie, but it's a crappy movie from the early 90s. And it kind of has a video game premise in it. And it's one that I fully admit is a shitty movie, but I watch it every now and then and I like it for nostalgic purposes. But what I believe was the acting debut of Academy Award, probably not winner, but maybe nominee, probably not, Rob Schneider. And it's Surf Ninjas. And Surf Ninjas was this amazing movie about these two kids who were living in the U.S. and they surfed, and then all of a sudden became ninjas to defeat the evil Emperor so-and-so, which was just Leslie Nielsen with a metal hand, robot hand.
Oh, okay.
And they had to beat him. But one of the gifts was that the older brother was like a ninja, became a ninja. The younger brother was able to see the future using his Sega Game Gear.
Really?
Yeah, it's awesome. You should check it out. It's terrible, but it's
Again, there's
awesome.
probably reasons why I haven't checked it out, nor will I check it out, nor have I checked it out. I can't lie to you, though, on a boring day, I may have probably watched Surf Ninjas. We'll see how that goes.
It's just one of those ones. I don't know. I watched it when I was a kid, and for some reason, I go back and I watch it now, and I'll fully admit, like, terrible movie. Stupid story, hokey acting, and it
Yeah.
wasn't really meant to be like that. But at the same time, I remember how much I loved it as a kid.
Okay, see, now that's the main thing. And again, some of these things that we're pointing out here may have been created just for a certain reason. And if they're just aimed at kids and stuff like that, like, obviously, as an adult or whatever, you're probably not going to enjoy it. These kids will probably beat themselves up for watching it as they get older and things like that, and they realize what the hell they were watching when they were kids. But there is that. Moving it, like, the 90s to me, first off, I'm not a big fan of the 90s. The 90s is my least favorite time and decade, but
Whereas I'm the opposite. I love the 90s.
I hate the fucking
I love
90s.
everything about the 90s.
The 90s was the
Parachute
spawn
pants.
of many cheesy movies, and I swear I don't even know where to begin. A lot of big action stars really started showing their faces in the 90s and becoming a lot bigger than what they may have possibly already been in the late 80s and stuff like that. But so big action stars that maybe possibly started showing up in the 90s. Jean-Claude Van Damme, Steven Seagal really started making his face stick out in the 90s.
Old squinty eye Seagal himself.
Absolutely. And between these two, I don't know which one had cheesier films. I would probably have to say Van Damme, because Seagal will have to give the stint to with Under Siege, which was 92, which was a big blockbuster.
I'm just a cook.
Okay, so as funny as saying the line may sound, that was the awesome premise of the movie. We see this guy on this battleship, and he's just a cook, but we later obviously find out that, of course, like any Seagal movie, he's the hero, and he's a former Navy SEAL, and one by one,
He takes down the
takes
terrorists.
down the bad guys. But I will say also, Tommy Lee Jones, great bad guy, great knife fight at the end of the film between him and Steven Seagal, and like great action and stuff like that. It wasn't like your typical Seagal action. It was more. It just looked like it flowed a lot smoother than say what it would in any other normal Seagal movie. Seagal though, like for him that was it, and that's why like besides giving him Under Siege, I can't pick out who's cheesier between him and Van Damme. Van Damme in the 90s, then first off, the 90s premise for action movies was, I'm a cop, I'm after some drugs, I have a partner who's kind of a wuss, who will probably get shot or killed, and I have to beat all
But
these
he's
other
only
guys
2 days
up.
away from retirement, and then
Right.
him and his wife are going to go sailing on the boat that he saved up for all these years.
Right, absolutely.
Mendoza! Sorry.
Shitty movies that fall into, let's say, Van Damme's category for the 90s. Death Warrant, which is just, I don't even get it. It's, the acting is bad, and again, the story is weak. Mind you, we're not really in movies like Van Damme movies or Seagal movies for the story or the plot or anything. We're basically just watching this to see them kick some ass. And I'm not going to lie to you, even that at most is barely tolerable to watch. Because it's pretty much all just the same premise.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, 90s action movies, like, I don't know, there was just, trying to remember some more, like, I mean...
Oh, I've got plenty more. Like, if we keep going, let's say, with Van Damme, Lionheart, terrible.
Well, yeah.
Just terrible.
But you can basically say, like, shitty 90s action movies, Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, pretty much.
In its entirety.
Your brain will start ticking. But again, that goes back to the thing that, like, they're so bad, you remember them.
Yeah.
Because they were bad. They were so bad. And Steven Seagal sits no better. Between Marked for Death, Out for Justice, these were just, again, horrible acting, just lame story, and you're trying to just employ so many different things that it just didn't work out. It just didn't work out. Let's even move into even worse things, and let's veer away from Van Damme or Seagal, and let's take Mr. Stallone. Now, he kind of dragged rock bottom for the 90s for a bit too, with certain things like Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, which was just, if anybody remembers that besides myself, congratulations, because it's so bad. It's so bad. The Specialist with Stallone and Sharon Stone and James Woods, Rod Steiger, Eric Roberts, huge cast, and just wasted fucking talent for The Specialist as well, which was 94 with Stallone as well. And it's just terrible.
We all know how big a Stallone fan I am. I think every one of his movies are pretty cheesy. But, so like 90s action, you got all that, but there was another thing that came about in the 90s that ended up being pretty cheesy too. And I mean, we got to talk about the superhero films of the 90s. More importantly, we have to talk about Batman Forever. But more importantly, Batman and Robin. Which was essentially just, let's see how many cold jokes Arnold Schwarzenegger can make in an hour and 20 minutes.
Dude, the acting is, for all the talent that's in it, it goes beyond just camp benefactor of the 60s Batman. And George Clooney's concept of Bruce Wayne was just terrible. And Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl, just terrible. The movie, for the 2 hours and 10 minutes that it runs for, feels like it runs for 4 hours. It is so dragged out, and it is so...
Well, I mean...
terrible. Just shitty and terrible.
The one-liners from Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze are just...
beyond
like,
camp benefactor.
Yeah, like, it's not... They're not even like, haha, good dad joke. It's just like, oh my god, seriously? Shut up.
Shut up. Just please stop talking.
Now, do you think when they made that movie, do you think they wanted it to be campy? Like, do you think they were trying to capture a bit of that 60s Batman?
Okay.
Or do you...
Well, we know that, like, when you take a look at the Batman series, if we start with Michael Keaton in '89 and going into '92 with Batman Returns, like Tim Burton had a good idea of making Batman darker and kinds of things like that.
I'm really surprised though that Johnny Depp wasn't Batman for those movies.
Too small. Sorry.
Yeah,
I
but
I don't picture Johnny Depp being okay. Well, I guess the fact that Val Kilmer could be Batman.
Well, no, I was just thinking, because it was Tim Burton,
That's true.
and
They
I
are
assumed
pretty much bed
that
buddies,
Helena Bonham Carter would be in there somewhere too.
right? Because
She could be Catwoman.
would have been better than Halle Berry, which we'll get into superhero movies about that as well. Yeah, if you forget about that one, there's
I
You're not
did
hurting
actually
yourself.
forget about that one until now.
Like Joel Schumacher, when he took over as director for Batman, wanted more. He wanted to bring back the camp value of Batman, but keep it action packed for people of today.
So,
But-
see, Batman Forever.
The camp thing was done.
Batman Forever wasn't that campy. It was very like '90s acid trip, bright fluorescent colors. Like
Batman.
it was like Batman at some weird rave that Stefan from SNL would be going to.
Right.
But the cast in that one I think saved it too, because Tommy
Jim
Lee
Car-
Jones,
As Two-Face, awesome.
Tommy Lee Jones was awesome and everything, and Jim Carrey
As a Riddler,
as the Riddler was great too,
could do
because
better.
Jim Carrey had been in a few movies and he was becoming a huge star, but he was always playing like the funny dumb guy. This one he was like funny, but he was like
Insane funny.
yeah, like maniacal.
He was eccentric
It gave
funny.
you the insight that Jim Carrey could play more than just
Jim
Ace
Carrey,
Ventura and
The Mask, Dumb
not
Dumber,
Harry Dunn, but
Lloyd Christmas.
Lloyd Christmas. Yeah, and Stanley Ipkiss.
Yeah, I mean, Batman Forever wasn't too bad. It's tolerable. Batman and Robin is just, it would just make the bottom of the ship barrel for
Oh,
the
yeah.
Batman series.
For superhero movies in general too. There's
Superhero movies
really
in general,
there's
just,
really only one superhero movie that I think could rival Batman and Robin for just how shitty it is.
and I hope you're going to say Catwoman, because
I'm not. I was going in a different direction. I was talking about one where the expectation was high, and the movie was just so terrible, and that's Green Lantern.
Green Lantern, very bad. Very bad.
A superhero movie,
Shitty. Just shitty.
but a superhero movie and Ryan Reynolds, you think's going to be good,
Right.
and it's not
I think
at all.
I think though at the time though he was just a big commodity because of Van Wilder and how popular that turned out. And I don't think he'd really established his niche at the time, and I think it was too much to give him a superhero role at the time. Certain
Yeah.
things, like I've always said before, certain movies have you need the right casting to bring shit alive. Now whether you like them or you don't, okay, let's take a look at things. Who else could be Blade but Wesley Snipes? Who else could be Laura Croft but Angelina Jolie? Take a look
Except
at
now
the
there's a new one.
right.
But yeah, I
But
know
let's
what
take a
you're
look at the X-Men movies and these Wolverine movies and these Avenger movies. These people are cast because they look like the people. Ryan Reynolds at the time may have fit the Green Lantern concept, but no. I think he was still too
But-
inexperienced at the time. And
But I
it
mean,
totally
that
made the
movie was
a
so
flop.
bad that he makes fun of it in Deadpool.
In Deadpool, right. And that's just... the Green Lantern is just...
Oh,
I'm speechless because that's just how bad it is. It's absolutely horrible.
But yeah, so Halle Berry is Catwoman.
Well, if before we move on to Halle Berry, because
All right.
well, maybe not. We're stuck in the superhero franchise, so we might as well keep going. I'll come back to what I was going to say later, but it'll have to keep going back into the 90s again. But Halle Berry is Catwoman. If you forget this one, it's probably a good reason for that, too. First off, I don't even like Halle Berry. I hate Halle Berry. Halle Berry couldn't act her way out of a wet paper bag if she fucking tried. She's... You know what? I can't even say she reeks of effort because there is no effort. She's just terrible.
She was all right in Swordfish. Plus, we saw her boobies.
You see her boobies in everything. Halle Berry, I'm sorry, her acting is just terrible. It is just terrible. And
But the whole story to that movie was just
it was
everything about it was just terrible.
Yeah, again, it's so terrible. I'm absolutely speechless. I have nothing to say about Catwoman. To be honest with you, I don't even know what the premise was of what she was doing. Really, we saw her. I don't even think the way she became Catwoman. I don't even remember how she became Catwoman.
I'm assuming she was just a lonely cat lady who made a leather suit. But I don't really know.
But either way, what I'm saying is,
Like, it's not like she was half cat.
What I'm saying is that when you go and watch Batman Returns, since she is one of the main antagonists in the film, we get to see how she becomes Catwoman. I'm not saying I don't remember Halle Berry and Catwoman or anything like that in the actual movie. I'm just saying I don't even think there was really anything really dramatically standing out showing that.
There was no backstory.
No backstory, really. It was just basically like, yeah, you already know who Catwoman is, so here's the movie. Blah, 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 blah. Other superhero movies that I found floppy, Fantastic Four.
Oh, yeah.
Pure flopperama. Massive flopperama.
Yeah. It was terrible. Like, the Fantastic Four
It was too short, number one, for what you needed for as many characters as there was for the Fantastic Four. There was weak character introduction. There was weak story. Even dialogue was maybe mediocre at best.
Well, see, and here's the biggest thing with the Fantastic Four. That tells you how bad it was. The Fantastic Four is a Marvel Comics property, correct?
Yeah.
Marvel is doing Avengers Age of Ultron, where they have basically every superhero ever conceived in the fucking Marvel universe is all coming together in this one movie. Do you know who's not in it at all?
The Fantastic
Any
Four.
of the Fantastic Four.
Any of the Fantastic Four, precisely.
Like, they have Ant-Man.
Yeah. To be
Ant-Man.
honest, I didn't even know there was an Ant-Man, but the fact that
Hawkeye.
he made it... Yeah.
No Fantastic Four.
No Fantastic Four.
You know what might be helpful when you're battling a guy that can destroy the universe? Someone made of fire. But no, Marvel won't touch them anymore because it was such a flop.
Yeah, they are...
Or no, I guess I shouldn't say Marvel, but whatever studio's making the movie. I guess it's Marvel Studios. But like, yeah, they decided not to put them in this new Avengers movie with everybody else.
Nope.
It's basically like they're no longer part of the Marvel universe.
I don't blame them in any way, shape, or form. Fantastic Four, again, that's another one. If you don't remember it in any way, shape, or form, or you totally forgot that there was a Fantastic Four movie, I don't blame you in any way, shape, or form. Because it's that bad. Sorry, I needed coffee intake, ladies and gentlemen. Things that I was going to go back to for the 90s. And this is a big one to touch on because this kind of falls into a category of films that the first idea concept of it was a blockbuster, and it was spectacular for how controversial the film was at the time too when it came out. And Basic Instinct, when it came out in '92, was a huge hit, and again, mainly due to its sexual controversy throughout the film.
You got to see her vagina.
Yes, there was that concept as well, which might be probably one of the more memorable things out of Basic Instinct as well. But the writer of Basic Instinct, Joe Esterhazy, found that he had kind of found this niche with Basic Instinct of creating this erotic mystery thriller, and decided to think that carrying on the concept with, here comes a crappy film concept, or the shitty film concept, Sliver, in 1993, which is a disgusting, kind of stepping over the line, perverse kind of concept of a film. This kind of goes beyond erotic thriller. Again, there's some good wasted talent in this film with Sharon Stone and William Baldwin and Tom Berenger, Martin Landau, who makes an appearance in the film as well. But Sliver...
I just gotta pee. You keep talking.
Okay. But Sliver the basic concept of Sliver, for nobody who has ever heard of this movie or seen this movie, basically there's a building where a lot of murders take place, and there's also a peeping Tom living in the building as well, who tends to record his sexual acts, other things that happen in this building, and so forth. The concept is generally just kind of just over the top, creepy and perverse, horrible acting, cheesy acting, at best, if I want to say that. And for some odd reason, this, as if Sliver wasn't bad enough, Joe Esterhazy had to move along in the 90s, and in 1995 came out with, he had written screenplays for both Jade and Showgirls. Now, these movies are so bad that they both tied the #1 spot for worst movie of 1995. And you know what? I'm going to say this. Anybody out there that, if there are any of you out there that are fans of Showgirls, it is a sleazy, trashy, disgusting, reprehensible piece of film that for some odd reason has nothing to do with Showgirls. It has nothing to do with Showgirls. I don't know what the point of the movie is. Besides multiple various scenes of simulated sex, language, and I don't even know what else. The film is just absolutely terrible.
Of course, the first time my parents went out of the house and left me alone, I went right to the video store and I rented it because I wanted to see Jesse Spano's boobies.
Right, and
Because not every Saved by the Bell girl took the same career path as Miss Elizabeth Berkley.
right. Showgirls, you know what? I can't even say that there's a reason to go out and watch this, unless
Well, I think I already
I
established.
think you
probably
already
the only
established
reason.
possibly properly.
But like,
for
no,
that.
it was a terrible movie. It was poorly written. It was poorly acted.
It was
The
extremely poorly acted.
storyline was
And again,
stupid.
tons of wasted talent for this. By the way, I'm pretty sure nobody had a career after this film. Except for Joe Esterhazy, who, as I said, in 95 also decided to come out with Jade. For the director, William Friedkin, who, if you're unaware of who this is well noted for The Exorcist or The French Connection, which are both classics, and hit rock bottom with this thing. Because, again, we tried to do the erotic thriller, and sleazy erotic, yes.
there were some instances where that sort of worked. Like I'm not talking like more examples where it didn't work. Poison Ivy,
Yeah, just
Again,
bad. Again,
just
if you
bad.
don't remember the Poison Ivy film series,
but Wild Things.
the original Wild Things was good.
Exactly. Like that's what I mean. Like there was a way.
But again, Basic Instinct was good.
Right. There was a way
Now,
to
again,
do an erotic mystery thriller.
The whole point, in case nobody picked up on this, is this Esterhazy guy had a great idea with Basic Instinct
And
and
then
made
just
it work.
ran it into the ground.
And then he tried again, failed, tried again, failed, tried again, failed. I'm sorry, but do you not know when to throw the towel in? Because, leave with some dignity, buddy, because your dignity is pretty much flushed down the shithole now. Because you're done. Other big things, and we ripped apart Stallone for the 90s, and we ripped apart Van Damme and Seagal. Another person that kind of hit rock bottom in the 90s was Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger, and I'm just going to throw one thing out here with Schwarzenegger, and that's Last Action Hero. Last Action Hero, which was unfortunate, because the idea was awesome. And it's just terrible. I'm sure for film lovers out there, for you film lovers out there, we've all watched a movie or something like that where we've all man, I'd love to be in this movie. Oh, I'd love to be able to do that. Oh, it'd be so awesome to be that guy. And, well, The Last Action Hero gets to bring that to life. And it's just terribly done.
And Jingle All the Way wasn't exactly his peak either.
Yeah, you did a movie with Sinbad.
Sinbad. There's another one where you can just basically say,
You could just
shitty movie. Sinbad.
bad. We could just do a whole podcast on Sinbad movies, assuming there are multiple ones.
There was Kazam. And Jingle All the Way. That's all I remember him in.
Jingle All the Way. Oh yeah,
You know, with Schwarzenegger.
yeah.
With the toy.
Turbo Man doll.
Turbo Man doll.
Turbo Man doll.
Give me my Turbo Man doll. So speaking of the 90s, still, movies that just tried to catch like a cultural phenomenon and failed miserably would be, I believe it was the 1997 British blockbuster Spice World, starring the Spice Girls.
Horrible. What was even the point of Spice World?
I don't remember, but I remember them driving a double-decker bus that was like a glittery Union Jack flag, and there was, I want to say there was a bomb on the bus, and they couldn't slow down, sort of like Speed. Was that movie where they had to keep their speed up, and if their speed dropped below a certain speed, then the bus would blow up? And I can't remember what the speed was, but I think the movie was called The Bus That Couldn't Slow Down.
And you're pretty sure that was the premise of Spice World?
No, I think that was a part of it, but I don't know if that was the premise. Like, I don't actually know. Like, let me look it up. Let me look up what the premise was of Spice World. Because I remember watching it because it was 1997, so I was 13, so I was okay. Like, I was allowed to. These were hot women.
No, man.
These were hot women. I was allowed.
Sorry, you don't get to refund me for goddamn Mean Girls and me not.
I didn't say I liked it. I didn't say it was one of my top 5
I don't
favorite
care,
movies.
man. You watch that shit. If I did watch it, I was probably forced to.
World famous pop group The Spice Girls zip around London in their luxurious double-decker tour bus, having various adventures and performing for their fans.
Right. There was
Okay.
no fucking nothing about it.
And it was 1997.
Yeah,
And
just-
IMDb has it rated as a 3.4 out of 10.
Again, 34%. Terrible. The fact that enough people watched it that it got 34% just irks my mind.
The first user review is 1 out of 10. Yaw, the pain! Sorry,
Right.
I kind of want to read this guy's review. Hold on. Where is it? Because it actually... My God, this is a truly horrid movie. All this movie has going for it is some good-looking girls, and the music, if you like their music, which I don't. The acting is horrible, the plot is infantile at best, the dialogue is stupid. Avoid at all costs. An interesting side note, almost everyone either voted 1 or 10. I suspect the people that voted 10 will mature in a few years and block this embarrassing portion out of their childhood.
Other things that I would like to point
This is
out.
the reason the UK has gun control.
Other notables that I will give to the 90s for bad movies. Striptease. That hits big. Bad Boys 1 and 2, they hit big. Now, Bad Boys, I'm actually going to stop myself right there because Bad Boys, I'm going to give reasons why this is shitty. Now, nothing wrong with Martin Lawrence and Will Smith on screen together. Totally freaking hilarious. The fact that you tried to create an action movie, not to mention we're in the mid-90s here, people, and a buddy cop movie, really? About drugs? Really? How many fucking times has that been done? Who fucking care? You want a buddy cop movie about drugs? Go back and watch Lethal Weapon. How about The French Connection? Much better than fucking Bad Boys, and that shit was done
How about
almost
Turner
40
and Hooch?
fucking years ago now. What?
I said, how about Turner and Hooch?
I really hope that's making the shitty fucking movie list because, yeah, it better be. The fact that Bad Boys 1 dealt with that concept was bad enough. The fact that you came out with a number 2 and it dealt with the exact same thing, and number 2 is even worse than number 1. If you're going to watch Bad Boys, watch number 1. Don't watch number 2. Number 2, the exact same premise. Drugs, buddy cop movie, and probably the most pointless script known to man. The fact that you dragged this buddy cop drug movie out for 2 hours and 27 fucking minutes is unfucking believable. Which means take a stab in the dark about how many pointless fucking jokes there are in there with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. Although the Reggie shit is totally
True.
fucking hilarious, and anybody that's seen the movie knows what I'm talking about.
And just to try to lighten your mood, I have a joke for you. How do you find Will Smith in the snow? You look for the Fresh Prince.
That's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, I know.
that just makes worst joke fucking list of the fucking podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to point that out too, although very good.
Thank you.
Nice and
So,
cheesy.
another genre that I have trouble figuring out whether, like, I'm not saying all of the movies in this genre are shitty movies, but they all basically follow the same premise, and especially through the 90s, and that's sports movies.
Right.
Any sports movie, we're the underdog team, we have adversity, but we overcome it, and then we win in a dramatic fashion in the final game against the best team in the league who were making fun of us all season.
Right.
Right? And I mean, that is, well, like, I mean, the Mighty Ducks. The Mighty Ducks 2. D3, the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, but yet they kept on going.
They kept on going.
I don't know if you would call these shitty movies. They were somewhat aimed at kids, maybe
Yeah.
teenagers.
No, I mean, I'm not saying they're shitty movies or that all of the sports movies are shitty, but they all follow the exact same storyline. Like, you give me a sports movie from the 90s and I'll tell you exactly what happens without ever seeing it.
Right.
Oh, underdog team overcomes adversity to beat the big bad first place team in the end of the season.
Right.
Like, even Air Bud Golden Retriever or Golden Receiver, whatever the fuck it was called.
Golden Retriever, I think
I think it was Golden Receiver, though, because I think he played football. I don't know. There were a bunch of movies where the dog played sports. And every movie is the same thing. 20 minutes of, well, it doesn't say anywhere in the rule book that a dog can't play quarterback. Doesn't say anywhere in the movies that the dog can't, be the point guard. And then the dog ends up, but they win, right? They're the underdog team that was so shitty, they had to have an actual dog on their team. And then they won in the end, right? Like, even look at the sports movies that I watched when I was a kid, like Angels in the Outfield or Rookie of the Year.
Right.
Both of those movies. Like Angels in the Outfield. Underdog team, kid prays, Angels show up, help them win. Rookie of the Year. Kid breaks his arm, becomes a pitching phenomenon, joins the Chicago Cubs, who suck, and overcomes adversity to help them win.
Adversity. Right.
Like, that's, you know what I mean? Like, you never really see a sports movie where it's like, they get to the, they're like the underdog team and they just get thumped all season and it's over.
Right.
And maybe as a sports fan, that's what bugs me about them.
Yeah.
Maybe as a
sports
Toronto
isn't
Maple Leafs
that
fan,
black
it bugs me because
sports isn't
my
really
team
that
is the
black and
underdog
white.
all the time and they never win,
Right.
ever. And it hurts more than I like to admit.
Other shitty movies and moving along as time progresses, and just when you think that like there couldn't be any more shitty movies, probably another one that I can't even watch it for the 90 minutes again that it lasts for is X versus Sever. And anybody that has
X
forgotten
versus
about
Sever.
this one too, I don't blame you. Lots of talent, completely fucking wasted. Ludicrous dialogue, and just the idea is just stupid. X versus Sever, like what brain capacity did it take to come up with that title? Nothing. Both Banderas and Lucy Liu, I think, are in a war against one another, and Banderas is just depressed through the whole entire film because his wife left him because she thought he was dead. And gets hired to find some kid that's carrying some weapon and ends up doing battle with Lucy Liu. But they become friends at the end and beat up the real bad guy.
What's a happy ending?
Yeah, the happy ending was when the credits were fucking rolling and the film was over. Ballistic X versus Sever, again, just meets the it meets the trash can totally, and I didn't really care. Other things that came up in the 90s, or actually both of these are directed by the same guy, and this guy is duly noted for his terrible films and complete massive cheesiness. House of the Dead, another video game movie
Yeah.
that was absolutely fucking terrible. If you liked House of the Dead, I'm sorry, but let's be honest, it's
You're
crappy.
Yeah.
I don't care about zombies or not. It's crappy.
You're allowed to have your own opinion, but if you liked it, your opinion is wrong, and you're stupid.
Now, this one here, which is directed by the same guy, Yui Boll, this one came out in early 2000 as well, Alone in the Dark. And if you have forgotten about Alone in the Dark, this movie may possibly have been actually considered worse than the fourth Jaws movie. And yes, I just said that. This movie is so bad. You know what? You can't even call it bad acting. You can't even call it just a bad story in general. Poor cuts, poor editing. Just, to be honest with you, I don't even know what the hell the point of the fucking movie is, to be honest with you. Because there really was none. I was unfortunate to see this movie in the theaters when it came out. And when I went to go see this, I would just like to say that me and the girl I was dating at the time, we were the only two sitting in the theater. And we really were. I thought it was a joke, actually, to be honest with you, when the film started. Because I didn't really think the film was starting because there was nobody in the theater, but us two. And the fact that we paid a shitload of money to see it because it's expensive to go to the theater, we stayed and watched the whole thing. I hated myself for a long period of time for doing that. And yeah, that's the only film I've ever been to that I was certainly the only person sitting in the theater with somebody else.
Can't remember if I've ever gone to one where I don't think I have where there's been nobody else.
I've
gone to a few where it's been very sparse crowds.
to be honest with you, there's actually only one film ever too that I've ever gotten up and walked out from too, and that was the Matthew Broderick Godzilla, which also makes my shitty movie list. Monster fucking movies and stuff like that. Unless there's a story behind it, I don't even know. I don't even think there was a story behind Godzilla where Godzilla came from. It was just in the fucking water off the coast of New York.
But that's what Godzilla does. He sneaks up.
He is pretty fucking sneaky that way. And I mean, all the sludge in the New York fucking water, I highly doubt you'd notice him in there.
That's true. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little mini Godzilla in the cess between the two piers here.
That wouldn't shock me either.
At least they sort of redeemed themselves, because the new Godzilla was actually not that bad. With Bryan Cranston. You're shaking your head. Have you not seen it, or do you think
I
it's
own it!
Okay.
I
I didn't think it was that bad.
made it a half an hour into it before I shut it off.
I didn't think it
I
was
would
that
go
bad.
back and watch that old Japanese shit before I watch this shit again.
I didn't think it was that bad. So did you just hate monster movies? Like, what did you think about Pacific Rim?
I actually watched the whole thing.
There you go. There's a start.
Have I watched it ever since? No.
I thought it was all right. I don't know.
And, okay, to me, a monster movie is like Alien or Aliens. There's a story for this. There's a premise. And it's not...
The things in Pacific Rim were technically aliens because they came from another dimension.
Yeah, but there wasn't really... It's what I'm looking for. Like, it was unbelievable. Unreal. Like, it was too unrealistic. By way sorts.
Yeah, no, you're right. Sigourney Weaver giving birth to an alien creature on a spacecraft is...
She didn't give
much more
birth to it.
believable. Well, it popped out of her stomach.
It didn't pop out of his... popped out of some other guy's stomach.
Whatever, but you know what I mean. That's so much more believable.
They weren't giant metal robotic things.
A guy threw a scuba tank into a shark's mouth that shot it. The shark exploded after roaring like a lion. So much more believable.
I didn't say it wasn't believable.
A girl from Africa moves over to America and becomes the most popular girl in her high school after taking out the social club.
Excuse me, they gave notice to that. Regulation Hottie. Okay?
Good Lord.
I'm sorry, but she got the Regulation Hottie vote and that made her popular. I'm sorry.
I remember when I got the regulation hottie vote when I was in high school, and it made me popular as hell. There's an unbelievable movie for you. Makes Pacific Rim look like a documentary.
Okay, so we may be indifferent about Pacific Rim,
And Godzilla.
and Godzilla as well.
Not the Matthew Broderick one, though. That one was terrible.
Yeah, the Matthew
Good
Broderick.
soundtrack, though.
Matthew Broderick one.
Good soundtrack
is-
featured Green Day and Puff Daddy.
Right, it did have good soundtrack though. Moving into other things like remakes and stuff like that sit on the shitty concept. I'm gonna go back to Halloween for this because Rob Zombie's Halloween was just terrible. The second Halloween that Rob Zombie did was terrible. I don't even know where he got the concept to be able to do a second one after the first one because I didn't care about a 1 hour backstory into Michael Myers' life. I'm watching Halloween because I want to see people get killed. And I don't know where Michael Myers became a 7-foot tall professional wrestler. Huge. And somebody please tell me where he started talking in the second one. Because he's catatonic. He can't talk. Doesn't talk. Just kills the fucking character. Yes, I'm yelling. It just, oh my God. I'm sorry, Rob Zombie, I can't give you credibility for that. I can't give you credibility at all. People decide to come and punch me in the face for that, knock yourself out, but actually scratch that last comment from the record.
Another, like I was going to say, like, because they've remade so many movies, and I'm assuming they're all worse than the originals, like Planet of the Apes,
Bad.
the remake of Carrie,
Bad.
the
Just
remake of
bad.
Psycho.
Okay. I'm going to stop you right there. Psycho is something that never should have been touched. Maybe at best a sequel, but never should have been a third one, a fourth one, a fucking remake. A remake? I am sorry. Hollywood, where did you give somebody the go to make a remake of Psycho? And it wasn't even a remake. This guy put no effort into this movie whatsoever. Psycho is totally fucking awesome and revolutionary for its time. And it's still creepy. Norman Bates is still the creepiest movie villain ever.
The second worst remake ever for Rotten Tomatoes is Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yep. Didn't like that either. That never should have been touched. Never should have been a sequel to that either. Never. Now, Friday the 13th, though, I will say, there are movies that sit with me that sit borderline good, but borderline shitty as well. Although, what I like the best about the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise is, obviously all we're doing is focusing around a dream world, and a killer who kills you in your dreams or whatever. Beauty part about it is you can do anything you want with these movies. Because anything can happen in a dream, or a nightmare, whatever. To me, what puts them as borderline shitty is I didn't like the changing of the Freddy Krueger character and making him witty and cracking like funny puns after he kills somebody. I'm sorry, this guy was a filthy child murderer. That alone, the concept behind Freddy Krueger is disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing pleasant about Freddy Krueger, and to suddenly start making him like the laughable, oh man, I can't wait to hear Freddy Krueger crack another joke about something or whatever. It
This
takes away
demented
from
child killer's got some good singers.
yeah, it takes away from the Freddy Krueger concept. And to me, I think that's where things like Halloween, at least the original franchise of Halloween, and Friday the 13th sit a lot better. Jason doesn't talk, Michael Myers doesn't talk. They are on there to kill people. They don't crack witty fucking puns afterwards. It's just come and get the job done, scare you half to death, go home. Movie's done. Friday the 13th for me sits on the borderline shitty franchise, minus the first one, minus the original one. The original one is freaking awesome. The Scream franchise, to me also, since we're on a Wes Craven kick here, Scream franchise is another one that sits borderline shitty. First one, totally original, totally awesome. Second one, same kind of premise, really. Third one, well, we pretty much know what to expect.
It's the same sort of thing. I Know What You Did Last Summer. Not bad. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer? Oh, come on. You can even get into the parodies of it. Scary Movie. Hilarious. Scary Movie 2.
Eh.
3. 4.
The only reason
What are
we
they up to
really
now?
watched
8?
the only reason we really kept watching Scary Movie was to see what you're going to parody and what you're going to poke fun at.
And I mean, I think it was the fourth one where Charlie Sheen was in it.
That was
and
the Space Aliens, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they were parodying the M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong, his Signs. Yeah, it was good because it was different. It wasn't the Wayans brothers in a haunted house.
Right.
It was something a little different. So it was funny. But and we've talked about this on a different podcast too, like the comedy one, I think we talked about it. They went overboard with all of this sort of stuff because they did not another teen movie, not another teen movie 2, not another superhero movie. And they basically just went through all of these. They parodied everything, and it just got to the point where it was a little bit ridiculous because, I mean, Scary Movie was funny because it was different. Once you started parodying all these different types of movies, and they got really lame. The jokes didn't land. And I think a lot of them, too, were very current when it came, like, to pop culture. So when you turn around and you watch that movie 5 years later, none of the jokes make sense because all the jokes were made about things that were happening at that time, which makes it a little harder to watch.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like in the one where they've got the guy crying and it's like the whole Leave Britney Alone thing. Like most teenagers nowadays have no idea what that was.
No.
Because it was a flash in the pan thing from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
they were pointed certainly at just certain.
But they were just so culturally current that it's hard to go back and watch them because half the jokes don't make sense.
Right.
But there's another franchise I want to talk about here, which I think was basically made to be campy, and that's Sharknado. All 4 or 5 Sharknado movies.
That there are now?
Like, first of all, the idea of a tornado sucking up a bunch of sharks that then kill people on land because they're in a shark tornado, a Sharknado, if you will, is just stupid. The special effects are pretty stupid. Now, I mean, Tara Reid dies a pretty violent death, which is kind of cool. But
that might be worth watching.
But, like, was it Sharknado? Was it the one where the shark jumped out of the water and bit the plane?
No, that's Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus.
That's right.
Just fucking terrible.
But, like,
the fact that it jumps 30,000 feet out of the water and eats an airplane is one thing. The fact that it eats a battleship along the way as well, it eats the Golden Gate Bridge. Let's not leave that out either, boys and girls. Right? Because Mega Sharks do that.
Makes Jaws look like a goldfish.
Yeah. Quite frankly, I don't think it looked any bigger than Jaws did.
Well, and I'm pretty sure there was another one where, like, there were somehow sharks in an avalanche that ate people.
I think you may possibly be right. That I'm not sure about.
I'm not 100% sure either. I'm going to look that up because I'm curious. Shark. Avalanche. Oh, it was literally called Avalanche Sharks. Avalanche Sharks tells the story of a bikini contest that turns into a horrifying affair when it is hit by a shark avalanche.
That's just terrible. Sharknado and stuff like that. Now, some of these films...
Oh, here's a great review on it. One of the worst movies I've ever seen. So bad that it's literally difficult to watch.
Yeah.
Oh,
and these are.
Wait a second. But that was in 2013. In 2016, they came out with Ice Sharks.
Ice Sharks.
Which I'm assuming is the exact same movie. Ghost Shark.
Ghost Shark?
We're in a movie called Ghost Shark. I just don't understand sometimes how. Sorry, my phone's going all weird. I don't understand some of the movies that get made. Like, someone has to sit there and say, you know what? Sharks in an avalanche. That sounds like a good movie idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the idea is for people doing
Oh,
these.
by the way, there's 6 Sharknado movies. 6.
I only knew that there was 2 at the time.
There's 6.
That's terrible.
Avalanche sharks. Wow, it actually really didn't tell me anything.
There's probably a reason for that. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you have forgotten all about these or you didn't know that these movies existed, again, there's probably a reason for that. Some other notables that I would like to point out that certainly make a shitty movie list and that definitely make shitty movies. Rocky V, and again,
Yeah.
we'll hit Stallone for this one too. Rocky 1 and 2, freaking awesome. They both showed that Stallone could write, and they both showed that he could direct. Rocky 4 is probably the most popular of the series. I have no idea what you were thinking with Rocky 5. Rocky 5 is just, it's just terrible. It's cheesy, and it's a total letdown to the franchise. And the fact that the Rocky franchise had made it this far, I think was a total letdown, at least for at the time, until Balboa, to end the Rocky franchise. Rocky V was just absolutely terrible, from where I stand. Predator 2 also makes my list for bad movies. The original Predator was awesome. Built great suspense, built great tension, pure muscle movie, pure action movie all the friggin' way. The concept and idea of the Predator was awesome. Predator 2, I don't know what you were thinking. First off, Danny Glover, no Arnold Schwarzenegger whatsoever. Bad casting. I don't even know what the whole point of the Colombian-Jamaican drug war was at the time. I don't know if you needed a story just because for some reason for the Predator to come in, but certainly no need or reason for that. I'm sorry, Mr. Steven Seagal, I'm going to take another punch at you here twice. The Glimmer Man also makes my list for other bad movies. Again, a buddy cop movie, only this time dealing with a serial killer. First off, I think total miscasting of Keenen Ivory Wayans. Didn't belong in the movie in any way, shape, or form. He just didn't look like he belonged. And him trying to have a blend of action guy and comedy relief guy in the film, it just didn't work. And of course, Seagal brought his typical, I'm a cop, but I'm former ex-CIA, I know everything, I can solve this case on my own, I don't really need the rest of you guys' attitude to the movie. And this one was big disappointment for me. That is going to make the list it sits semi-cool, but sits borderline shitty, is the second Under Siege. First Under Siege, as I said, awesome. Second Under Siege, well, the surprise isn't there anymore.
It's the same thing, but it's on a train.
It's on a train, pretty much. Terrorists
Is he a
take
cook?
over a train. Yes, he is still Casey Ryback, the cook.
Just cooking on a train.
Yes, only
So-
this time he has to save his daughter or his niece. Sorry.
I'm just going to interrupt you for a second because I'm in a rabbit hole here right now. Sand sharks. A shark who swims in sand terrorizes a tropical paradise. Released in 2012 and starring none other than Brooke Hogan. My God.
Now, there is an interesting one because now that you have brought that up, these are also going to make the list, boys and girls. Let's take Hulk Hogan's Hollywood acting career. which unfortunately lasted longer than it should have. No Holds Barred, being his first step onto the screen, just terrible. Just terrible. Hogan plays a professional wrestler who comes back into action after his son is killed or something like that by some maniac wrestler. And of course, Hogan fights him in a no holds barred match. Hogan can't act. You know what? Hogan couldn't even cut promos in pro wrestling. Okay?
What you
And-
talking about, brother?
and again, my point just proven. Hogan's rambling just.
Okay, but is it worse than any of his other movies?
Such as Suburban Commando or Mr. Nanny.
Mr. Nanny.
Mr. Nanny. What the fuck were you thinking? What the fuck was Hogan thinking? There's a
Paycheck?
reason his wrestling career never took off either when he came back. I'm so baffled, and for everything Hulk Hogan was in professional wrestling, I don't know what you were thinking that these movies were a good idea.
Speaking of movies that weren't a good idea, Sand Sharks. Sorry, I'm seriously in a rabbit hole right now. Here's a review for it. Not sure what it is I just watched. No, seriously, what the fuck did I just watch? I don't know whether to cry or laugh at the stupidity throughout this movie. Sure, the CGI isn't great, and the idea of Sand Sharks itself isn't exactly a genius's work, but that didn't really disturb me. I think the over and under the top acting was the worst part. Additionally, whoever took part in writing the script should be shot. I've seen pornos or romantic dramas with better scripts. I guess I would watch this movie again if friends came over and we all wanted to get really, really, really high while watching a movie. And then I'd say it's an amazing comedy. But Sharktopus versus the Terracuda. It's a half shark, half octopus versus a half barracuda, half pterodactyl.
Are you serious?
Yes. Does it have Conan O'Brien in it? It has Conan O'Brien in it as himself. An American scientist creates a half pterodactyl, half barracuda creature, the Terracuda, which inevitably escapes, leaving the Sharktopus to stop it. Like,
Is that
seriously?
a skeleton?
No, that's the Terracuda.
Oh, that's the Terracuda.
That's Conan O'Brien in the movie. Like, how do some of these get made? That's what kills me. The Sharktopus versus the whale wolf
The Sharktopus?
versus the whale wolf. Not a werewolf, a whale wolf. It's a wolf crossed with a whale.
We're not
Then I'm
bullshitting
assuming
you
a
people. These
scientist
are actually
escaped and
movies.
somebody had to go get Sharktopus to stop it. Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus. Three-headed shark attack
Yeah, man, I already knew that one existed.
with Rob Van Dam. Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. Now you know why he left around with
Mega
professional
Shark versus the Crocosaurus.
wrestling. Yeah, I already knew that one existed too.
Dino Shark. Mega Shark versus Mecha Shark. Monster versus Metal. Mega Shark versus Colossus. Atomic Shark. I'm seriously at a loss right now. I had no idea.
Well, we know what he's going to be doing with his night and
Like,
checking out
obviously,
Netflix.
okay, obviously Jaws 4 is not the worst shark movie ever made.
No, but Hollywood production, most
Yeah.
definitely. The fact
Oh
that
yeah,
you
and
chucked money at
I
this,
can almost guarantee that all of these are like straight to the Sci-Fi Channel,
straight
supposed to be
DVD.
campy.
Yeah,
low
these never made
budget.
theater, trust me. But things like Jaws 4 that made theaters, stuff like that, things like that, terrible. Other things that are going to make my list as well, which I'm sorry, Mr. Stallone, I'm also going to take another stab at you here. Get Carter, which I was also very disappointed in. A role that was perfectly suited for Stallone, which don't get me wrong, he did it well. Again, though, poor script. And just the story was a little bit on the kind of low side, kind of cheap side. It looked like it tried to be flashy too. The film reeked of effort. If you're gonna watch Get Carter, watch the original 1971 Get Carter with Michael Caine. Unless you're a diehard Stallone fan, but if you're a diehard Stallone fan, I don't need to pump that in because you probably already watched it. To be honest with you, my brain is so racked with shitty movies right now. I have thrown out a list though of other shitty movies that we didn't quite get a chance to. Do you have any other shitty movies that kind of rack your brain? Do you even have a list of shitty movies?
Well, I was gonna say like
shitty movies that hit shitty for you, because there are no other ones that are coming across my brain.
My list for shitty movies would probably be Mario Brothers.
Right.
Mean Girls.
Thanks, man.
I don't know. Like, see, a shitty movie to me was Titanic. Because there was so much more they could have done with people dying in the boat sinking, and it was more about the love story, and that always pissed me off. Like, throw me in 5 more scenes where the guy falls 40 stories and dings off the propeller. That was awesome. That's what I want to see in a disaster movie.
A lot of things, I think what made Titanic a big seller was the fact that it was Titanic. You throw James Cameron's name on there.
Oh, like, don't get me wrong. It was a good movie.
No.
But there
are
could have been so much more they could have done with it.
There are too many things that deviate from the film that make it a bad fucking
Exactly.
film. The love story is ludicrous.
Exactly.
That's
it should have been a disaster movie with a love story, because you could do that, instead of a love story that happened to be on a sinking ship.
Right.
Like, that's what it felt like to me. It felt like it was more about Jack and Rose than it was about the boat sinking.
Right.
Batman and Robin is also on my list for shitty movies. Anything with Sylvester Stallone, I will say is a shitty movie. And even though I've never seen it, I'm just going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say Sharktopus versus the Terracuda. I think that's a shitty movie.
It does. It just sounds absolutely ridiculous.
Now, if I'm wrong, somebody please comment on our YouTube or Facebook page and correct me.
Right.
Maybe you're a big fan of the whole Sharktopus series.
Because other ones that I'm going to pump out here, and I'm going to hit a couple here. One of my favorite movies that I kind of keep to myself just because of the premise, the original, or not the original, but the 1986 version of The Fly, I love. The remake was just terrible. It was just terrible. The one with Jet Li was just bad. It looked like a cartoon movie with some computer-generated animatronic kung fu scenes in it. And also, I'm sorry, Jet Li, you're going to make the list twice. Romeo Must Die, also. I don't know what the fuck Aaliyah was doing in there, probably to write some songs for the fucking soundtrack. I don't really know. And again, so many things about Romeo Must Die that could have just been left out. Again, if you don't remember these movies, nobody's gonna blame you or anything like that. Just saying, just throwing that out there.
Yeah, they were pretty bad.
They were bad.
So just to, as Sean lights himself on fire, just another thing. So, I mean, we're in a shitty mood. We're talking about shitty movies.
Yes.
So, just to bring up another shitty thing that happened this week was the passing of R. Lee Emery,
right?
Who was
drill sergeant in
that's who he'll always be to me. He'll always be the drill sergeant in Full Metal Jacket. I will always say that the opening 5 minutes of that movie is
the greatest opening to any movie.
Oh,
it's the funniest thing you'll ever see.
It's so good. So, I guess on that note, close her out for the night.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I guess we'll.
I will say, for the way we kind of started this out, I am aware that nobody needs to comment on the fact that we were kind of all over the place with this one, but believe me when I tell you, the movies that we have commented on today, there are reasons we commented about these, and these are shitty, and these aren't things that were direct to DVD or anything like that. These are Hollywood gave people a budget to make these films. And
we haven't even touched on Waterworld, which was such a big budget for such a flop.
For a massive flop.
But I mean, if anybody out there has a different list, thinks we missed something, any of the movies that we mentioned, you thought they were great, like maybe Batman and Robin is your favorite superhero movie of all time,
Sure.
like let us know. Like send us a comment. Leave us some comments what you want our next podcast to be about. We'll set up a vote again, I think.
Yeah, that worked
See-
out well.
see
We
what,
appreciate everybody's voting on our page for this podcast. Again, we apologize for those of you who did vote that this, again, like I said, this one was kind of all over the place and didn't really flow.
Which we do go in because it's hard because we're not doing a genre, right? We're just
we're just
talking
shitty
about
movies in general.
movies that are crap. So,
but again, believe me, these are movies that Hollywood actually gave people a budget and gave them the concept to go ahead and make these movies. But we would absolutely love to hear people's reviews of what they think their shitty movies are, because the whole thing is you may not agree with us. We are all our own critics out there when it comes to watching a film, and as you saw for us, I mean, there were ones that we disagreed on, but there were definitely a lot that we did agree on. And if you feel that there are ones that you disagree on with us, then we would absolutely love to hear from you.
and if you ever have Friday night free and you want to be a guest on the podcast, we're open to that.
Yeah,
Drop us a line,
absolutely.
send us a message on the site. Let us know. Let us know if you want to come down and chat movies with us and stuff like that. We're always open to having people here. And so we'll see everybody, or everyone can hear from us again in about a month, give or take.
Month time, hopefully.
And we'll figure out what we're going to do a podcast on then. And in the meantime, we'll leave you with a little Arlie Emery.
And